Greetings, everyone. My name is Charles Kovach, the Not Safe for Work presidential candidate campaigning for a more direct democracy. And instead of simply going around saying I want a more direct democracy over and over and over again, I make videos talking about current events and other things that interest me as a way to garner attention to this campaign and to this idea. And today, since you can see I'm wearing my reading glasses, I'm going to read a piece of legislation. And this one in particular is the one that was introduced a couple months ago and has been trending on Twitter today, the SMART Act, the where is it? The Social Media Addiction Reduction Technology Act, introduced by Senator Hawley. And so let's see what it says. Okay, findings. Congress finds the finding. The business model for many internet companies, especially social media companies, is to capture as much of their users' attention as possible. To achieve this end, some of the internet companies design their platforms and services to exploit brain physiology and human psychology. By exploiting psychological and physiological vulnerabilities, these design choices interfere with free choice of users. Okay. Definitions. The term commission means the Federal Trade Commission. The term content feed means a service of a social media platform that aggregates and displays information such as text, photo, videos, links, and application activity provided by two or more users. The term social media company means any person that operates a social media platform in interstate or foreign commerce. The term social media platform means any online electronic medium such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, as such services existed in 2019. A live chat system or electronic dating service that A. primarily serves as a medium for users to interact with content generated by the other third-party users of the medium. B. that enables users to create accounts or profiles specific to the medium or to import profiles from another medium. And C. that enables one or more users to generate content that can be viewed by other third-party users of that medium. The term operator means any person who, in interstate or foreign commerce, operates a website on the internet, an online service, an online application, or mobile application. Okay, Section 3, Prohibited Practices for Social Media Companies. Beginning 3 months after the date of the enactment of this act, it shall be unlawful for a social media company to operate a social media platform that uses any of the following practices. 1. Infinite scroll or auto refill. The use of a process that automatically loads and displays additional content other than music or video content that the user has prompted to play when a user approaches or reaches the end of loaded content without requiring the user to specifically request, such by pushing a button or clicking an icon, but not by simply continuing to scroll, that additional content be loaded and displayed. I don't know. I don't really see a big deal there. I mean, because if you're scrolling down to the bottom, it just makes sense to have that auto load. Um, um, and if you leave the autoplay on YouTube, I mean, you've already made the conscious choice to allow something to automatically play. So I don't see how that's beneficial. Okay, 2. Elimination of natural stopping points. Uh, the use of a process that, without the user expressly requesting additional content, loads and displays more content into a content feed than the typical user scrolls through in 3 minutes. What? The use of a process that, without the user expressly requesting additional content, loads and displays more content into a content feed than the typical user scrolls through in 3 minutes. What the hell is the what is a typical user scroll through in 3 minutes? And that's just stupid. Autoplay, the use of a process that automatically plays music or videos other than advertisements without an express separate prompt by the user, such as pushing a button or clicking an icon, unless A. before any content is loaded to the user display, that user or a different user compiled a playlist of multiple music videos or audio files that the user designated should be played without interruption and the intermediate user selected one of the videos or files that in the pre-compiled playlist, or B, the predominant purpose of the social media platform is to allow users to stream music, but only if the files on the platform automatically plays or are audio files or advertisements. So I don't understand why. I mean, so far this seems like complete stupidity. Badges and other awards linked to engagement with the platform. Providing a user with an award for engaging the social media platform, such as a badge or other recognition of user levels of engagement with the platform. If such award does not substantially increase access to new or additional services, content, or functionality. Well, I guess you can kind of make an argument there. It would be a very weak argument. It's like, hey, I've been a member for 10 years. Does it get you anything extra? No. I just have clout now or something. But as for everything else in here, I mean, this is just stuff that people would do normally. I mean, like if you play MP3s or videos at home, well, you can make your own playlist. I don't see how any of this fights addiction. That's not really. I mean, yeah, okay, you can make the argument that making things more convenient, but that's. I don't see how that. Yeah. But even if you make things making things more convenient doesn't lead to an addiction so much. I mean, I mean, if you're waiting for the next text or whatever, I mean, it's the same thing like texting, text messaging people. If you're always on the phone text messaging people, and how is that much different than always being on the phone? What's it called? Looking at your feed to see what pops up. It's really it's really somebody desiring a social interaction, and yeah, these may be techniques that are used to that get people hooked. Well, I don't even want to go and say that. I just don't see how regulating these things is beneficial. Like these things specifically. It's more of a, because what you're really dealing with is more of a social issue. People people want to interact with each other. I mean, that's obvious. That's why social media is so popular. But nobody wants to interact with each other face to face anymore. Everybody wants to do it through text messages and social media and everything like that. So, yeah, these techniques could be considered addictive, and they might be done so with the intent of maybe getting people to engage more, but these are just things that, the things listed here are things that are things you would do normally just to make your life more convenient. And if we're gonna talk about these things being a way to social media addiction, well, let's talk about other things too, like how there's always constant fear mongering in the media, and how everybody's always trying to make you scared of everybody. It's like, oh, that person over there, don't talk to them, text them or tweet at them, or it's whatever. It's fucking stupid. Okay, Section 4, requirements for social media companies. In general, beginning 6 months after the date of enactment of this act, it shall be unlawful for a social media company to operate a social media platform if the platform does not include a user-friendly interface that, with respect to such platform and any other social media platform that is owned by the same social media company or subsidiary of the company, of that company. One, allows a user to set a time limit that blocks the user's own access to those platforms across all devices. If the amount of time the user spends on those platforms within a certain period exceeds the time limit set by the user using 1 minute increments, and at minimum allows the user to set such time limits for daily and weekly use. Okay. So it's the same thing as having a sleep timer on your television, sort of. That really goes to another point. You know, people talk about social media addiction, but back when I was a kid, everybody just watched TV all the time. And people would watch TV for hours. And so it was really the underlying cause here, the social media. That's all I'm saying. 2, automatically limits the amount of time that a user may spend on these platforms across all devices to 30 minutes a day unless the user elects to adjust or remove this time limit. And if the user elects to increase or remove the time limit, resets the time limit to 30 minutes a day on the first day of every month. Provides users with regular disclosures, including immediate disclosures when prompted by the user, of the amount of time the user has spent on those platforms across all devices, broken down by day, week, month, year, and platform. Okay, well that one's good. You know, being able to see your time, how much time you've been spending on something. But passing a law to make that happen, okay, I can get behind that. I mean, it's really, I mean, because we're talking the whole idea behind the social media addiction and everything is a public health concern. So it might be good for people to see how much time they spend on the social media. So I don't have a problem with that part right there. I mean, so far everything else in this bill is shit, but you know, whatever. Displays a conscious pop-up to user not less than once every 30 minutes that the user spends on those platforms, regardless of whether the user spends 30 minutes on multiple devices. That shows how much the time the user has spent on these platforms all day. You know, one thing I just thought of that this really would be a problem for, like, things like that, would be like internet trolls, or people who basically get paid to spend the entire day on the internet and watch Twitter and just feed out, like, you know, whatever, they troll people, or they can even go so far as like disinformation campaigns and so forth. But is that a good way to do it? Okay, limitations. Subsection alpha shall not apply to any portion of social media platform that consists of a predominantly text-based direct message service such as email, or a service that is substantially similar to email. Okay. Requirements for operators. Beginning 6 months after the date of enactment of this act, it shall be unlawful for an operator to operate an internet website, online service, online application, or mobile application if the operator does not obtain the consent of users to allow users to select from among options in the following manner. 1. Natural presentation. If the operator requests that the user accept or consent to terms or anything similar, A. By clicking an icon, the operator shall present the user with an option to decline by clicking an icon that is identical to other icons in terms of size, shape, font, and other visual auditory design. Okay, that's very clever to be mindful of that. Except that the options need not be identical in color, as long as the option to decline is conspicuously shaded differently from the immediate background color, and such option to decline shall be placed before the option to consent as measured by the direction the language in which the option is written conventionally read, and by taking some other action to consent or accept, the operator shall present the user with the option to decline by taking a similar equivalent action. Wow, that was a mouthful. So basically, it's not hiding any kind of like I do not agree to these terms thing, which is yeah, I can get behind that. No pre-selected options. When an operator requests a user to make a selection from among options, uh, no option may be pre-selected. Okay, so this section is decent. Um, Section 6, Commission report on internet addiction. Not less frequently once every 3 years, the Commission shall submit to Congress a report on the issue of internet addiction and the processes through which social media companies and other internet companies, by exploring human psychology and brain physiology, interfere with free choices of individuals on the internet, including with respect to the amount of time individuals spend online. Okay. I mean, I'll talk more later. I'm most of the way done. Section 7, Powers of the Commission, Temporary Joint Rulemaking Authority. In general, the Commission and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, referred to in this subsection as the Secretary, may jointly promulgate rules under this subsection to prohibit practices by social media companies and operators that exploit human psychology or brain physiology to substantially interfere with consumers' freedom of choice. Procedure. The Commission and the Secretary may jointly promulgate rules under subsection in accordance with Section 553 of Title V of the U.S. Code. Sunset. No rule promulgated by the Commission and the Secretary under this subsection shall be effective for a period that is longer than 3 years, but no period of time during which the Commission is enjoined from enforcing such a rule pursuant to a court order issuing an injunction against such rule or declaring such rule unlawful shall be counted against such 3-year period. Report to Congress with respect to any rule promulgated under the subsection 1 year before such rule is scheduled to expire. The Commission and the Secretary shall issue a report to Congress explaining the basis for the rule and its importance and notifying Congress of the date on which the rule will expire if the Congress does not enact the requirements of the rule into statutory law. Okay, so yeah, making temporary rules. Okay, whatever. Enforcement by the Commission. In general, except as otherwise provided in this Act, and the regulations prescribed under this Act shall be enforced by the Commission under Federal Trade Commission Act. Unfair, deceptive acts or practices, a violation of this Act or regulation prescribed under this Act shall be treated as a violation of a rule or defining unfair or deceptive act or practice prescribed under Section 18 Alpha 1 Bravo of the Federal Trade Commission Act. Actions by the Commission, except as provided in subsection Charlie 1, the Commission shall prevent any person from violating this Act or a regulation prescribed under this Act in the same manner, by the same means, with the same jurisdiction, powers, and duties, and through all applicable terms and provisions of the Federal Trade Commission Act, 15 U.S.C. 41 et sequitur, were incorporated and made part of this Act, and any person who violates this Act or a regulation prescribed under this Act shall be subject to the penalties and entitled to privileges and immunities provided in the Federal Trade Commission Act. Yay, that was a mouthful. Nothing really helpful. And then it goes on to enforcement. Yeah, so nothing really. Okay, so let's talk about this. So, social media addiction. Okay. You know, I see things like coming out from YouTube and whatnot, or not YouTube, who the hell was it? I can't remember who the fuck it was, but somebody about hiding likes and dislikes and whatnot. If you really want to get into it, stuff like that counts more towards adversely affecting people psychologically, because people want to be validated. That is one thing. If you're going to talk about things like social media addiction, that's one thing that plays into social media addiction is people's desire for validation, and then that goes into the whole introvert versus extrovert thing, and I'm talking about the actual definitions, not just the what people believe they are. In other words, introvert is the actual definition of an introvert is somebody who is who's motivated internally, that doesn't require external opinions about them to make their decisions on how they go about life. Whereas extroverts are people that are motivated externally, and how they go about life and make their decisions are based on how the people around them are acting. And you have many people that are extroverted, many people that are introverted. Many people that are extroverted, those are the people that do things like seek validation through likes and whatnot, and retweets and so forth. And that winds up being a more pertinent influence on people's lives, just because of the nature of how people are. So if we're going to talk about things like social media addiction, then I would expect that you would address things like that. This bill does not do what it puts out to do, and realistically, we have to have a bigger conversation about, is social media addiction really a thing, or is it just a means that is social media just a means that people are trying to address and or compensate for other issues in their lives? So I'm going to leave it there and ultimately say that this bill is shit. It's kind of pointless. And the senator that wrote this bill, Senator Hawley, I never did read his loot box bill. I'll probably do that after this, but his loot box bill wasn't great either. But yeah. So once again, my name is Charles Kovach. I am running for the presidency of the United States, and I am running because I want a more direct democracy, which I know seems kind of counterintuitive. But if you are a person who wants direct democracy, then I urge you to spread the word about this campaign and this concept, and thanks for your time.